to today's episode of What Does the Law Say with I Really Care. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Don't forget to share after watching and also like. You can also press the notification bell so that when videos come up, you will be reminded about them. So yes, right into today's topic, I'm talking about something a bit sensitive or something that a lot of people don't know and have not paid attention to. I'll be talking about discrimination against persons with disabilities. I mean, yes, that's probably something you see every day, disabled people, but you do not know that some of these people face a lot of discrimination, and there's actually a law that protects them. In Nigeria, there's a law that safeguards them. And so we're going to look at what the law provides and how disabled people should be treated. So firstly, what does it mean to be disabled, or what does disability mean? Let's look at what the dictionary says disability is. Disability is any condition of the body or mind, impairment, that makes it more difficult for the person with that condition to do certain activities. So maybe, the person has an impairment, either with their mind or their body. It makes it extra difficult for them to live their life or carry out their day-to-day activity. And, it makes it hard for them to interact with the world around them. It restricts them in some way. That's what disability means, and that's how disabled people live. It puts them in that restriction. So let me list out examples of disabilities. So you have vision impairment, deaf or hard of hearing, mental health conditions, intellectual disability, acquired brain injury, autism spectrum disorder, and physical disability. So disability does not only mean, maybe you are physically incapable of doing something. Someone can be mentally disabled or, have problems with their sight or with the ability to hear or the ability to do, activity like every other person. And so now let's look at what the law provides exactly. But firstly, did you know, quick fact, that according to the World Health Organization 2011, the World Disability Report states that about 15% of Nigeria's population, or that's about 25 million people, have a disability. Did you know that? I mean, Nigeria has about, let's say as of 2011, we're at a population of maybe 150 or 120, thereabout, and 25 million people actually live with disability. And so when it says that, many of them, because of this, have faced human rights abuses, discrimination, stigma, violence, lack of empathy, or their lack to access healthcare, housing, employment because of this disability. And it's painful because some people were not in this situation when they were born. Maybe for instance, somebody that is disabled physically, maybe their legs are not there or they move on a wheelchair. Some people probably had an accident and then are in this situation. Some other people were born like that, which is also not their fault. And it's painful to know that because of the fact that they are disabled, they lack access to basic things of life that every other normal person would have. Another quick fact is that there is a United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disability, and Nigeria actually ratified this convention in 2007. However, we did not pass that bill into law until 2018. Some problems with, the president and all that stuff. But we did not pass that bill into law until 2018 in our country. The law is called Discrimination Against Persons with Disability, and the aim of the law is to prohibit discrimination, on the basis of disability and impose sanctions against persons who discriminate against disabled people. And so we're going to be looking at what the law provides exactly. I know that a lot of people do not even know that this law exists. If at all they do, they don't know the content of it. And people go about every day being very discriminatory, mean, harsh to people who are living with disability, and it's not fair generally. So let's look at what the law provides. The section 1 of that law says that a person with disability shall not be discriminated against on the ground of his disability. So you are not meant to discriminate against a person because that person is disabled. No, it's against the law. And it also says that a person who discriminates based on the fact that the person is disabled, you commit an offense and you are liable on conviction, if you're a body corporate, a fine of 1 million naira, Yes, if you discriminate against your employee because they are disabled and you are found guilty, you'll be liable on conviction for a fine of 1 million naira. And if you're an individual, a fine of 100,000 naira or 6 months imprisonment or both. So as much as you feel like, oh, you've been getting away with it, you are being discriminatory to another person because they are disabled, it's actually an offense and you should stop. If you are doing that, you actually should stop. It is not lawful. It's very illegal. The law also provides that a person with disability has the right. It is not just privilege. A person with disability has the right to access the physical environment and buildings on an equal basis with others. You're not supposed to treat a disabled person differently because you're trying to access a physical building. The same way you will treat someone who is not disabled, you should also treat someone who is disabled. It also says that a public building shall be constructed with the necessary accessibility aids. This one, I think we have not completely gotten here in Nigeria, because if it says that you must construct everything, it means there must be lifts, there must be parking lots for people that are disabled. You must put them in focus, in sight when you're constructing buildings, and we are not there yet. So aside even ensuring that physical structures are put in place to ensure ease and comfort for a person living with disability, also you need to consider transportation systems, so road transportation, whether they're going to be traveling by road, whether they're going to be traveling by air, whether they're going to be traveling by the sea. All these facilities that need to be put in place to ensure safety, ease, and convenience for them has to be put in place. Now, moving on to the rights to education, to health, and first consideration in queues, accommodation, and emergencies. I think people pay more attention when you're an old person with how, you want to, come and stand in the queue and everything. That same way you pay attention to an aged person or an old person, you're also supposed to pay attention to someone who is disabled. And now remember that this does not only apply to physical disability. A person might be impaired in their ears or their eyes, or mentally or intellectually or in any other way. If you ever see that, you're meant to treat them with so much care and concern. So it says that a person shall not employ, use, or involve a person with disability in begging. Lagos State United. In this Lagos State of Nigeria, I don't know if people know this section 16 of this law. It says that you shall not employ, use, or involve a person with disability in begging. That's like the third business, is it franchise now? What would I call it? That's like the third business idea that people use. A lot of people use, no, let me say a lot of people. You find people on the road use a disabled person as a ploy, as a means to beg. They probably can't read this or don't know this, and they're probably just trying to find a way to fend for themselves and eat. But this also goes back to providing basic care, health, food for the disabled. If they could get this, then maybe they might not need to beg. It also says that a person shall not parade disabled persons in public, with the intention of soliciting for alms. This goes on a lot here. Also, you're not supposed to use that condition of disability as a guide for the purpose of begging. You see all these three situations and scenarios, they reside here. And I think the government will still have to come in, because there's a commission that is meant to ensure there's no discrimination against disabled persons. This commission can also make sure that, persons living with disability are not used for these purposes. There are many of them on the streets of Lagos. Oh, the small boy is pushing his mom or his auntie on a wheelchair and begging for money. He's holding his blind uncle or dad and begging for money. But you're not supposed to use them for that. If they want to beg, they can beg, but don't use that disabled person as a means, don't employ that disabled person, or don't parade that disabled person as a means or with the intention to solicit for alms. It's completely wrong. It's actually an offense. And the law says that a person who commits this offense that I mentioned is liable on conviction to a fine of 100,000 naira or a term of 6 months imprisonment, or both. So now, another very important right that persons living with disability have is the right to education. Section 17 says that a person with disability shall have an unfettered right to education without discrimination or segregation in any form. So if a blind person wants to go to a school where all the students there can see, you're not supposed to discriminate that child because the child is blind. You're not supposed to discriminate that person because the person is impaired in any way. No. A person with disability is also entitled to free education to secondary school level. And the commission shall provide educational assistive devices. I remember in university, there was this girl in, she was in a different department, but she couldn't see. She was visually impaired. But she had all these devices that she would use to assist herself to read. She would read books and things like that. And she graduated. She graduated from the university. She's a graduate. So there shouldn't be any discrimination because of an impairment. And, the commission is also supposed to provide those assistive devices to help the disabled people. And also any other kind of assistance, whether they need sign languages, whether they need those devices, or any other skill to communicate to a person who is disabled is also very important. Section 20 ensures that the government, fulfills that duty. It says that government shall ensure that the education of persons with disabilities, particularly children who are blind, deaf, or with multiple disabilities, is delivered in the most appropriate language, mode, and means of communication for the individual. And so this is the duty of the government, to ensure that these people living with disability, have the best of education, have these devices, have those means, have those skills brought up to their level so that they can learn and meet up with the society. It's already hard enough that they're trying to cope with things going on. The best we can do really is just to provide these facilities to ensure that they also have an easy life. The government shall also guarantee that persons with disabilities have unfettered access to adequate health care without discrimination on the basis of disability. This whole act provides that persons living with disability should have all these basic things of life without being discriminated. So whether it be healthcare, whether it be education, whether it be access to transportation, all is that they should not be discriminated against. And if you discriminate against them, you would have committed an offense, and there's a punishment against such person. Also, it says that a person with mental disability shall be entitled to free medical and health service in all public institutions. I wonder if this is actually being implemented. Because it means that if I walk to a government hospital and there's somebody with, a mental disability, that person is entitled to free medical health care. But I think what will happen most times is that person would be discriminated against, looked down upon. There's even this eye that people will be using to look at the person. That look, that smirk, that's, that kind of thing. And the law provides that they're entitled to free medical and health service in all public institutions. Also, it says that in queues, when you're queuing up for something, persons with disabilities shall be given first consideration and as much as possible be attended to outside the queue. And it says that a person who goes against this section commits an offense and are liable to a fine of 50,000 naira or a term of 6 months imprisonment or both. So in the events that you're in a queue and you see a disabled person, that disabled person is supposed to give you first consideration, just like you ask for an aged person, or you can even attend to them outside the queue. If you do not do this, you've committed an offense. All right, moving on to the employment of opportunity for employment and participation in politics and public life. A person with disability has the right to work on an equal basis with others, and this includes the right to opportunity to gain a living by work, freely chosen and accepted in labor. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, the whole gist is that a person with disability also has the right to work on an equal basis. The person living with disability has the right to equal employment opportunities. You shouldn't shut them down because they are challenged in some way. They have that right. It is their own right to, just like it's your right to go to work and to do whatever you want to do and to make money, they also have a right to work. Also, persons living with disabilities shall be encouraged to fully participate in politics and public life. Persons living with disabilities are not just supposed to be kept somewhere in their rooms, locked up, turn off the lights, don't let the whole world see them. They have a life. They have rights too. They have a right to be part of politics. They have a right to have a public life. You're not supposed to lock them up or make decisions for them that because they are challenged in some way, then nobody should see them. Nobody should hear about them. No. No. They are not meant to do that. So, I've listed out all these rights that disabled persons have. Remember that I said that it's not just physical disability that shows that the person is disabled. There are different examples of disability, but they have a right. They have a right to education. They have a right to life. They have a right to free medical health care. They have a right to employment, to work, to be part of the workforce, to labor. So if you see a disabled person, be kind to them. Just be kind to them. Some of them circumstance. Some of them were born that way. Different reasons. But for whatever reason, just be kind to them. Do that extra thing that nobody else would do. Do not discriminate them. Do not look down on them. Do not make them feel like they are not worth it. Do not make them feel like they're a mistake because they were born. There are examples of people that, are disabled but are doing well. Cobhams Asuko in Nigeria. He's visually impaired, but he makes great music. Ray Charles, I think that's his name, of blessed memory, also could not see, and he wasn't born blind, but also created great music. And the list is endless. So do not, because you think that this person is challenged in some way, so it means no good can come out of them. In whatever situation that you find them, be kind to them, be nice to them, do not discriminate against them, say kind words to them, and do something different from every other person. It will go a long way. I hope you're able to learn something today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. What does the law say? I'll tell you next Thursday. Bye for now.